In 2001, an empire collapsed. Sega, once a literal titan of home entertainment, was utterly defeated. Bleeding cash, stripped of their hardware crown, and forced into an unconditional surrender in the console wars. Fast forward to today, that defeated manufacturer has methodically transformed into a sprawling, billion-dollar transmedia juggernaut. It's a staggering contradiction, a story of catastrophic failure, and arguably the most brilliant, unaddressed corporate resurrection in modern entertainment.
Welcome back to Learning with Pratik. If you're new here, I try to increase neuroplasticity by exploring a new topic every day. I do all the reading and researching so you don't have to. In today's explainer, we're analyzing what I like to call the Phoenix Strategy. We're going to chart the complete architectural breakdown of Sega's business model and examine exactly how they engineered a deliberate, multi-decade rebirth right out of the ashes of the console market.
Part 1. The Genesis of Console Wars.
So to really grasp the sheer scale of this corporate resurrection, we have to ground ourselves in the early 1990s. This was Sega's golden era. After transitioning from their roots as an arcade importer, Sega's executives basically issued this ambitious mandate. They were going to leverage their arcade hardware expertise to take on Nintendo's deeply entrenched monopoly in the home consumer market. And, the 16-bit era was defined by these incredibly stark contrasts. Under the leadership of Tom Kalinske, Sega cultivated a distinct counterculture identity. Where Nintendo was established and safe, represented by Mario, Sega positioned itself as edgy and rebellious, championed, of course, by Sonic the Hedgehog. Kalinsky's team utilized highly aggressive marketing, literally coining terms like blast processing, and they combined that with a lower entry price point and a broader, much more mature library of games.
And here's the crazy thing. This calculated, aggressive strategy worked flawlessly. It allowed the upstart Sega Genesis to do the unthinkable, outselling the Super Nintendo for 4 consecutive Christmas seasons in the North American market. For a brief, shining window, Sega was the undisputed cultural kingmaker of the video game industry.
Part 2. The Fall of Hardware. But as we know, dominance is fragile. The back half of the 1990s became this tragic spectacle of overconfidence that systematically dismantled Sega's entire hardware empire. In 1994, Sega launched both the 32X add-on and the Sega Saturn. The Saturn's surprise early launch completely alienated retailers and consumers alike, and it was quickly overshadowed by a newcomer to the hardware space, Sony, with their PlayStation. By 1999, Sega launched the Dreamcast, and despite it being an incredibly innovative, avant-garde console, it was simply too late. Competing against the impending PlayStation 2 and Nintendo, Sega endured 5 consecutive years of severe financial losses. By 2001, the bleeding just could not be stopped. Sega formally surrendered and exited the console manufacturing business forever.
Part 3. The Software Strategy Pivot.
Okay, so without a hardware platform, Sega was entirely adrift. To survive, the company had to fundamentally restructure its entire corporate identity. They had to transition from a platform holder to being platform agnostic. This transition was painful, but strictly necessary. Beginning in 2001, Sega shifted exclusively to third-party software development. A massive lifeline then came in 2004 when Sammy Corporation purchased a controlling interest, establishing the holding company Sega Sammy. Under this new structure, Sega quietly and methodically rebuilt itself. They streamlined their arcade business, focused heavily on cultivating core Japanese intellectual properties like the incredibly popular Yakuza series, and made these strategic Western studio buyouts. A great example of this is acquiring Creative Assembly, the UK-based developers of the massively successful Total War PC franchise.
Part 4. The Genius Atlus Acquisition.
But the true catalyst for Sega's modern software dominance arrived slightly later, through a singular, brilliant business maneuver. Following the bankruptcy of a company called Index Corporation back in 2013, Sega won a bid to purchase its assets for 14 billion yen. That's roughly $90 million. And embedded right within those assets was a development studio named Atlus. Today, Sega executives actually cite this purchase as their most successful merger and acquisition deal to date.
So why was it so successful? Well, because Atlus had incredible artistic talent, but very limited logistical resources. They traditionally narrowed their game sales to specific countries and staggered their release dates, but by joining forces, Atlus suddenly gained access to Sega's massive global publishing power.
This synergy is exactly what fueled the global explosion of the Persona franchise. It also facilitated simultaneous, worldwide, multi-platform launches for new critical darlings like Metaphor, ReFantazio, a title that achieved a massive global launch and major industry award nominations. It was the perfect pairing. Sega provided the operational infrastructure, and Atlus provided the prestige.
Part 5. Entering the Sega Universe.
Now, with their software publishing arm highly profitable and stable, Sega is looking to the future, and fascinatingly, they're building it by aggressively mining their past. The operative word here is transmedia. Sega realized the latent power of their intellectual property following the explosive success of the Sonic the Hedgehog cinematic universe, which, by the way, has grossed over $1 billion at the global box office. To replicate this success, Sega recently appointed Justin Scarpone, a veteran of Disney, as their new global head of transmedia. The objective is pretty clear: take dormant legacy properties from their arcade and hardware days and seamlessly expand them across film, streaming, television, and merchandise.
This ambition has materialized into a formal project officially titled the Sega Universe. Its tagline is simple but catchy: no old, stay gold. Sega's co-CEO, Shuji Utsumi, has publicly stated that they want to inject the edginess and rebellious mindset of the 1990s right back into modern entertainment. Think about it. It is a deliberate return to the very countercultural spirit that initially made the Sega Genesis so wildly successful.
And we're actually already seeing the blueprint for 2026 and beyond. Sega is explicitly targeting specific legacy IPs that are celebrating major anniversaries. For instance, Outrun, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary, is slated for a movie adaptation. Streets of Rage is getting both a brand new video game and a film. Sakura Wars is pegged for a complete transmedia revival. They're literally taking games born in the hardware era, updating their form, and passing them on to a whole new generation through multiple entertainment vectors. This completely cements Sega's transition. They are absolutely no longer a defeated console maker. They are a thriving, highly diversified entertainment juggernaut.
The archives are deep, and their strategy is incredibly clear. So, which legacy Sega franchise would you like to see revived next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you have something particular in mind. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, we open a different page. Until then, Pratik, out.